Hello and welcome to In the Channel from channelbuzz.ca, bringing news and information to the Canadian IT channel community for the last 16 years. I'm Robert Dutt, editor at channelbuzz.ca and your host for the show. We talk a lot in this show at the how of the channel, how to build a practice, how to manage a migration, how to secure a client. Today we're looking at a different kind of how to win deals in an environment where your customers care as much about your carbon footprint as they do about your hourly rate. My guest today has been living this story for 30 years. Frances Edmonds is the head of sustainable impact at HP Canada, and she's one of the most recognized voices in the country when it comes to the intersection of technology and sustainability. HP's own data shows that over 70% of partners who lead with sustainability are seeing measurable impact on their win rates. What does that actually look like for a Canadian MSP in 2026? We're going to dig into the shift in procurement rules, including some hard numbers on ESG weighting on Canadian bid documents, and why the rise of Edge AI might actually be the biggest sustainability story of the year for the channel. Let's get right into it. My chat with Frances Edmonds. Frances, thanks for taking the time.
You're very welcome.
You sit in a unique place in that you've been focused on sustainability for a while now. It's long before it was kind of a mainstream business conversation. Can you give us sort of the quick picture of what your role is at HP Canada now and kind of how that has evolved as sustainability has evolved and the story has evolved over time?
Sure. So today, my title is Head of Sustainable Impact. The name of our program is for sustainability. And I practice I call it CSR 2.0, Corporate Social Responsibility 2.0. So I spent the first half of my career really trying to get HP to the point where HP Canada, where we could call ourselves Canada's most sustainable technology company with background for that. So if you want all the proof of that, hp.ca/sustainable impact, and you'll see all of the proof. And then we took a look around us and said, well, really, sustainability from a business context in Canada is not advancing. Nothing's happening. We've got a few leaders, but the vast majority of Canadian businesses are not doing very much, including our channel. So we thought about, well, how do we change that? And really, in a capitalist economy, the demand signal for sustainability performance in suppliers comes at the ballot box of procurement. So about 8 years ago, we switched our strategy to work on how do we change how Canada buys? And that is really my job today, to encourage everybody in our industrial economy to add sustainability into their procurement criteria and decision-making so that there's an incentive for all companies to step up and do more on sustainability.
Is that all?
Well, on top of all the other things that we do to maintain being Canada's most sustainable technology.
Just have to transform how the entire nation procured.
Well, and I don't do this alone. Sustainability is a team sport. We require all players to come to the table and bring their relative strengths. And I'll give you an example. One of the things we're doing right now, we're onto our fourth cohort. We work with a nonprofit called CBSR, Canadian Business for Social Responsibility. And we teach sustainability professionals in some of Canada's largest companies, Walmart, Canadian Tire, the banks, insurance companies, so those sustainability professionals to hold the hands of their procurement friends to implement sustainable procurement. So we partner with nonprofits like Green Economy Canada, CBSR, with other industry associations, and with customers and partners to drive this change that is necessary.
Well, you mentioned sort of that there's still a need to mature kind of how organizations across Canada are looking at it. I believe it's global numbers, but the Amplify Impact data that you guys have showed that 70+% of partners were reporting winning new business by leading with sustainability, and that's a striking number. I guess what I'm curious is when a Canadian reseller, MSP, partner of whatever type it may be, is leading with sustainability in the sales conversation, what does that actually look like when they're in the room with a customer?
So it really depends who the customer is, right? Some customers are more focused on sustainability, or they may have sustainability goals, but the people that the MSP is talking to don't actually know that, right? There's often a gap between what the corporation or organization is saying and what the people doing the buying or the IT implementation don't really know that. So you have to do your research on your customer and understand where they're coming from, what's the opportunity, and then aligning what the MSP and the OEM are doing on sustainability and what are the pain points for the customer. Do they have difficulty managing products at end of first life, which is the most common issue they have? Do they understand where their security vulnerabilities are? If you think about managing print, for instance, when we do a print assessment for most customers, they've got printers that are 15, 20 years old on their systems, right? A huge security vulnerability because they just sit there and nobody really pays any attention. So until you bring some management focus to this kind of thing, helping customers with their pain points, showing them what the opportunities are, whether it's, simplest thing, managing end of first life and getting some value back for customers to help them purchase new equipment, or even helping them move into buying as a service, which is the sweet spot for both an MSP and for a customer to really maximize their sustainability leverage and performance.
Do you see it primarily today as a large enterprise and government kind of discussion and phenomenon, or is it kind of moving into the mid-market and down? I know things tend to kind of trickle down over time, because a lot of partners are working with SMBs who may not have that strong sustainability mandate at the top of their priority list today, but is that something that's coming into those smaller customers?
So I think it's quite spotty, I would say. And obviously I see bid documents from across the country from all sectors of the economy. So I don't think you can generalize. One of the advantages small businesses have is that they're often purpose-driven themselves. And, the owner can make a decision. Well, I'm buying from a company that puts ocean-bound plastics into my products, right? And it's a faster decision than going to a university where they have to get, 3 years of approval before they can change the policy, So it really depends on the customer. And I think the other piece that I'm seeing that's changed in the 8 years that I've been working in this particular area is before people didn't really know that link between sustainability and procurement. Today they know it, they understand it. The people who are practicing it want to do differently. They just have some inhibitors in the way that stop them, or they don't really understand, or they automatically default to, well, this product carbon footprint for computer X is X grams or kilograms, and this one is 2 kilograms less, so I'm going to buy the 2. Well, no, that's not how it works. You need a little bit more information to make a decision. And sustainable procurement is still getting the best value for the goods and services that you're buying, but now you're looking at the most sustainable or circular service or good from the most sustainable or circular supplier. You need to look at supplier performance as well, in alignment with your own organization's goals. And if you're thinking about governments and how big their sustainability goals are, everything from zero poverty to life below water and everything in between, right? Governments have a lot of opportunity to practice this stuff and really lower their impact and create a value chain that is more sustainable.
You've talked about, the rise of sustainability scoring in RFPs and procurement documents. I'm curious where you see that at right now in terms of, is it sort of something that's MSPs need to be ready for it today? Is it a coming wave situation? Is it something where it's that early mainstream adoption stage where there's still competitive advantage that partners can kind of stake out? I'm just curious how mature you see it.
There is always opportunity for competitive advantage because each customer has a different focus on what they are interested in from a sustainability standpoint. Are you helping bridge the digital divide in Indigenous communities? Are you, helping with disability across the country? There's different things that interest different customers. But I'll give you some numbers from the Canadian Collaboration for Sustainable Procurement. They just issued their latest annual report. And they work with broader public sector organizations. And obviously these documents are public documents, so they can collaborate this data. So they represent organizations with $105 billion in spend. These are broader public sector organizations. 27 members of this organization have sustainable procurement embedded into their policies. 14 of them have a dedicated full-time person working on sustainable procurement. And if you use the example of one of the biggest and best to date, I would say the OECM, Ontario Education Collective Marketplace, they actually publicize they're putting a 12% weighting on environmental social governance items in bid documents, not just at the OEM, but also at the channel partner too.
So if I'm a partner who wants to get ahead of us, especially when, as you described, there are so many different angles, offshoots, things to think about, ways to approach it. I guess what's sort of the minimum literacy they need to have in a procurement conversation today, and what should they know cold, and what should they be thinking about as kind of the likely big impact things to know as sitting where they are as a solution provider?
Right. So the universal language is carbon, right? What are your carbon emissions? How are you working to reduce your carbon impacts? And the customer's going to ask about that any which way, right? We know that our products that we're selling are very intense carbon products, right? 80% of a notebook computer is really determined before the carbon impacts are determined before it gets to the customer, right? It's how we build it and the carbon that goes into making it. So consequently, understanding a little bit about carbon, HP, through the Amplify Impact program, offers a wide range of training, everything from basic 101s all the way through to, we now do a thing called Climate Fresk with our partners' leadership to get them to understand this. And this is actually, you could come and do this if you wanted. We're running one next week. This is a 3-hour training that helps people as a group understand the interconnectedness of climate catastrophe and what they can do about it. So it's a very specialized form of training, and we go and we deliver it to partners' leadership so that they can understand how important it is to their business as well. So understanding the basics of carbon and where the carbon is in the system and how can customers help reduce that. So a bit of carbon literacy is the first place.
You touch on that particular training under the Amplify Impact umbrella. For a partner who's hearing this and thinking, okay, I'm interested, but I don't know where to start, what other tools and resources, especially the ones that kind of move the needle most for partners, are available there, and what should they be investing their time
outside of the Amplify Impact program?
No, in addition to the ones kind of what else is kind of there for partners that's high impact for them?
Oh, the Amplify Impact program, we basically took our 80 years worth of expertise and brilliance in leadership and sustainability, put it into a web-enabled system and tied a bow on it and give it to partners for free. Like, they've got everything they could possibly need in there. For partners who are not in the Amplify Impact program, I'd highly encourage you to join. It is free and not very hard to get started on. When they sign a pledge to say they're going to do the program, and then they go into this self-assessment, an online self-assessment tool. And this tool will ask them a whole bunch of questions. And then with AI enhancements, it will give them a benchmark average that they have against their peers worldwide. And then it will give them a customized printout of everything that they could be doing to increase their scores, I say. And I have to another piece of data, I just can pull it up. One of the really nice things is we're seeing, so since 2021, when we launched this program, the self-assessment scores have increased by 59%. Huh. So partners have to redo it annually. And so we're seeing steady progress, which is very cool.
So the investments are being made, and that's Canada specifically, or is that global?
No, that's a global number. We typically give out Canadian specific numbers. So it shows there's an interest. We have good data showing that it helps them sell and helps them win business. And I would say in Canada in particular, we've seen over 6,000 sustainability courses taken by partners' employees, which shows you there's an interest at the employee level, right? And all we have to do is give them a little bit more to get them going, and they can see how they can sell with it. It really, really is a useful tool. Now, for anybody who's outside of the Amplify Impact program, Dr. Bob Willard at Sustainability Advantage has a whole bunch of tools that he gives away for free too. Very high quality tools. It's another place people can go.
I guess in the channel specifically, how have you seen, obviously you've seen the numbers increase. I'm curious more locally in Canada, how you've seen the conversation sit with partners today compared to, say, 5 years ago. And I guess where does it need to go next?
Well, let's just look at what the economic situation is for partners today, for all tech companies. You know, we're trying to sell products that the prices are going through the roof. There isn't availability. What does that lead a customer? What would a logical customer do in those circumstances? You would start to think, well, I'd better buy for durability and longevity, right? Now we get into the can we sell as a service conversation. This is a way to deepen relationships with your customer. Customers don't want quick one fix anymore. They need you as a partner at the table. And so the ability to deliver to customers as a service, deepen your relationship with your customer, have a longer spanning relationship with your customer. And this is the way the market's going, right? We're going away from selling boxes to selling services. And so I think sustainability is just another one of those services that is part and parcel. I always think of security and sustainability as being two sides of the same coin, right? That's what customers need. So we're delivering both to them as they need it.
And security as a service is certainly well established. Do you feel where sort of in comparison, I guess, do you feel sustainability as a service is at in terms of being an established, understood, sought after kind of offering?
Well, let's talk about the Amplify Impact program. If a partner wants to manage their carbon footprint and wants to measure it and have software as a service to do that, HP negotiated for a globally discounted rate for partners who are in the Amplify Impact program to acquire software as a service to manage their carbon footprint. So now they become carbon literate in a different way by doing it themselves and understanding how customers need to deliver that to all of their stakeholders, whether it's employees or investors or whatever. And in some cases, we even allow them to use NDF to pay for this software as a service. We basically pay them to do carbon accounting.
I have to ask about AI because it's obviously the conversation that the whole industry, the whole world, certainly everyone in the channel's having right now. And there's a real tension, I guess, between the push to build AI infrastructure and its energy intensive nature. I mean, we didn't used to talk about data centers in terms of megawattage as the definitive measure of them. And sustainability goals. How, when customers are so focused on AI, how should partners be navigating that discussion with their clients? You know, is there a way to do both, or is it a trade-off right now?
Well, it's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it, so thank you. Let's start with cloud AI and edge AI. So edge AI, which I think in the vast majority of Canadian cases, being a land of small, medium businesses, is where we're going to need the AI to really bring up the productivity in our businesses across the country. Edge AI estimated to be greater than 90% lower impact and more secure than cloud AI. So we're already onto a winner there if we assume that we can get the computers with edge AI in it. But that's the sort of the basis of the conversation. And then I really think educating, I mean, most tech people don't know the relative carbon footprint of doing a Google search versus an AI search, right? So really, at its simplest, can we just educate people to use the right tool in the right place, right? Don't fritter away our carbon budget on something that you should be using a Google search for, right? So there's some minimal education required there. Then when we get into how do you use AI, in terms of its ethics and all the other stuff, that's a much longer conversation. And I'm hoping we'll see some more guidance documents coming out. I've seen a few from Google and other places, but I'd like to see a lot more focus on that. And I know we have some internally. I just don't know whether they've been issued externally yet.
That's quite telling, though. I think that you describe the much lower cost of doing it at the edge, which I think also has a lot of benefits for where solution providers sit and what they have control of, and control of data sovereignty, many different factors there.
Yeah, just got to make sure you got the security there as well, right? That's the other piece.
One more from me, and that's, what's one thing that you wish more MSPs, resellers, HP partners in general understood about sustainability today that they currently either are getting wrong or even just overlooking?
I don't think they've really, even where they've made the investments in becoming more sustainable and teaching and all the rest, I really don't think that they're maximizing that return on investment through selling with sustainability. And I think it comes with the education, but often the people taking the education out, the people making the how do we go to market strategies. But I think as we see this shift into selling as services, it will come along with it. If you think about WXP, for instance, and you know what that is, right? HP's all one tool to manage them all. There's sustainability built into that as well. And again, that security and sustainability piece together, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity to delight customers with sustainability that it's not hard to do. And it's really just making sure everybody knows and understands, and then understands what the customer needs.
Some good advice in there. I appreciate your taking the time to share kind of where things are at and where you see them going.
Thank you. And from Canada's most sustainable technology company, listed as one of the top 100 most sustainable corporations worldwide, this is near and dear to our heart. And, our founding fathers said, we're here to make a difference. And this is one of the ways that we do that.
Brilliant. And it's something that, we've heard from HP Canada for a while now. So it's not just a today conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it, Frances Edmonds from HP Canada. I'd like to thank Frances for her time today. It's rare to talk to someone who can bridge the gap between high-level environmental goals and the gritty reality of a municipal RFP response, and I think she gave us some real clarity on where that line is being drawn right now. And as always, I'd like to thank you for listening. My big takeaway from that conversation is that sustainability is becoming a hard technical requirement, much like security. When you hear that organizations like OECM are moving towards 12% weighting for ESG in their procurement docs, that's not nice to have anymore. That's a gating factor. If you're an MSP and you aren't literate on this space, you're essentially spotting your competitors a 12-point lead before the conversation even starts. I also found her point about Edge AI particularly striking. The idea that processing at the edge can save you 90% of the carbon footprint in the cloud is a powerful narrative for partners, especially when you layer in the data sovereignty benefits we discussed. It's a rare triple win of performance, privacy, and planet that fits perfectly into the AI PC refresh cycle we're seeing right now. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure to follow or subscribe to the channelbuzz.ca podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Ratings and reviews are always hugely appreciated. They really do help other Canadian channel pros to find the show. Till next time, I'm Robert Dutt for channelbuzz.ca, and I'll see you in the channel.